What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. On this video here, we're going to go down a rabbit hole once again on a Wiki of Ice and Fire. Hope you guys enjoyed that Harry and Car Stark video, which is the first video I made here with Game of Thrones stuff. What we're going to do in this video today, all right, we're going to go and trace the new, which is House of the Dragon, to the old, which is Game of Thrones. In the second season of House of the Dragon, we have a character coming into the mix here. His name is Lord Cregan Stark, and the last name there is no coincidence, very much a relation to the Starks that we're familiar with in Game of Thrones. As we know, House of the Dragon takes place about 170 years before the events of Game of Thrones, so there's a significant amount of time between Lord Cregan Stark's heyday here, when he's the Lord of Winterfell. He's a legendary Stark. I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything like that. I'm just going to trace his lineage from his time when he was the Lord of Winterfell all the way down to Ned Stark, who is the Lord of Winterfell and House Stark in the first season of Game of Thrones. How far separated are they from each other? That's what we're going to figure out in this video. All right, let's go. Okay, there he is. A little illustration there. Once again, we're on a Wiki of Ice and Fire. Go check it out if you have any type of curiosity or tickle at all about anything Game of Thrones related. Okay, let's take a look here. Issue. Wow, that man got busy. Rickon Stark, Sarah Stark, Alice, Rhea, Mariah, Jonel, Edric, Lyanna, Barthagen. Fucking Barthagen. And then Brandon Stark, right? That's a pretty traditional name for a Stark. Let's start at the top here and look at Rickon. I do have a pen and pad in front of me here, just to count like how many generations are separated between Cregan and Ned, because I know I'm not going to keep track in my head. Let's take a look here. Rickon was a member of House Stark, the eldest son and heir of Lord Cregan and Lady Ara Nori. He married Jane Manderly, with whom he had two daughters, Sansa and Serena. Let's take a look here. Let's fast forward to the conquest of Dorne, which is something that takes place during Daeron the Young Dragon's reign. He's a really interesting Targaryen king that takes place after the Dance of the Dragons. If you have, again, any type of curiosity with that, go ahead and search Daeron the Dragon. He would be Daeron the First Targaryen, not Daeron the Second. Rickon fought beneath the Targaryen banner when the young dragon, King Daeron the First, sought to conquer Dorne. He fought bravely, his deeds sometimes reported by Daeron in his conquest of Dorne. Whoa. Rickon's death outside of Sunspear, which is in Dorne, that's the capital of Dorne, in one of the final battles, was lamented in the north for years to come because of the troubles that dogged the reigns of his half-brothers. Issue. Sansa Stark and Serena Stark. Okay, so we know what the tradition and customs are in the north. It always passes down to the eldest son. So we can surmise that since Lord Rickon Stark had no male heir, it probably passed to one of his younger brothers. So let's go back here and take a look and see what's next. Sarah, Alice, Rhea, Mariah, Jonel? All right, let's go take a look at Jonel. Jonel, also known as One Eye, was a Lord of Winterfell and head of House Stark in the latter half of the 2nd century after Aegon's conquest. He was the second son of Lord Cregan Stark and the first by his third and final wife, Lyanna Stark. All right, let's fast forward down to here. Jonel had one eye. Thank you. We got that. Jonel became the heir to Winterfell after the death of his older brother, Rickon, in the conquest of Dorne, passing over Rickon's daughters, Sansa and Serena. Jonel also married Sansa, his half-niece. Whoa. God damn, I thought just the Targaryens did that shit. Jonel became the Lord of Winterfell after the death of his father Cregan, and the North lamented the death of Rickon, for the reigns of Jonel and his brothers after him were troublesome. Sounds that way. Jonel's marriage with Sansa was childless. After her death, he married Robin Risewell, but also had no issue. He was succeeded by his brother, Barthagen Stark, as Lord of Winterfell. All right, so as we can see with Jonel One Eye, he had no issue. Childless. After her death, he married Robin Risewell. All right, so let's just fast forward here to Barthagen. Once again, we're still dealing with the sons of Cregan Stark, so we really haven't like bridged that gap to like Cregan, like his grandson. So we're just going to try to piece this together. He had a lot of sons and just children in general. Barthagen, also called Barth Blacksword, it's a badass name, was the Lord of Winterfell and the head of House Stark during the reign of King Daeron II. That would be Daeron the Good, not to be confused with Daeron the Young Dragon that we just spoke about before, that had like an absolute hard-on to complete the conquest of Dorne and to bring Dorne into the fold of the Seven Kingdoms, bending the knee to the Iron Throne. He failed. He was the fourth-born son of Lord Cregan Stark, the third by his last wife, Lady Lyanna. Barthagen became Lord of Winterfell after the death of his brother Jonel. who had no issue. Barthagen was killed when Skagosi rose up against Winterfell during the reign of King Daeron II Targaryen. Barthagen is entombed in the crypts of Winterfell. He was succeeded as Lord of Winterfell by his younger brother, Brandon. Okay, so once again, we're talking about the sons of Cregan Stark here. Thank God that man got busy, I guess, right? And thank God for all of his wives, right? Let's not let the ladies go forgotten here. Brandon Stark was the Lord of Winterfell and head of House Stark during the reign of King Daeron II Targaryen. He was the youngest son of Lord Cregan and Lady Lenara. Brandon succeeded his brother Barthagen as Lord of Winterfell at some time during the reign of King Daeron II. Brandon married Lady Alice Karstark there. Okay, some Stark blood was Stark blood there, with whom he had 3 children, Rodwell, Baron, and Arsa Stark. Before his marriage, he had an affair with, God damn it, Brandon. We were doing all right there for a minute, man. He had an affair with Willa Fenn, which resulted in the bastard son, Lionel Snow. Brandon is buried in the crypts of Winterfell. Okay, let's go to Rodwell. Rodwell was the Lord of Winterfell and the head of House Stark during the reign of King Daeron II Targaryen. Rodwell was the eldest son of Lord Brandon Stark and his lady wife, Alice Karstark. And he had 2 younger siblings, Baron and Arsa, as well as 1 bastard half-brother, Lionel Snow. Lord Rodwell married Lady Miriam Manderly. Them Manderlys, man, they just love that mermaid shit. But had no issue. His brother Baron followed him as the Lord of Winterfell. Here we go again. All right, let's follow Baron. Where's Baron at? There you are, Baron. So Rodwell's a no. Let's see what Baron does here. Baron was the Lord of Winterfell and the head of House Stark during the reign of King Aerys I. Baron was the younger grandson of Cregan Stark. Baron became the Lord of Winterfell after his older brother Rodwell died without issue. Lord Baron gathered swords to throw Lord Dagon Greyjoy's armament back into the sea and made common cause with the Lord of Casterly Rock for it. Who would have thought, like, Starks and Lannisters finding a common goal? But that's what fucking Greyjoys will do to you people. They will make, like, the whole, like, enemy of the enemy is my friend type thing. According to a semi-canon source, he was mortally wounded in the ensuing clash. However, House Stark faced a crisis of succession as his wife and 4 other recent Stark widows made claims for their own children. Despite the crisis, Baron's eldest son, so he has an eldest son. Why is there a crisis? Like, let's just give Donner a chance here. Succeeded him as Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. Let's see. Donner Stark was a Lord of Winterfell and head of House Stark. He was the eldest son of Lord Baron and his lady wife, Laura Royce. Royce has come from the Vale. He had 4 younger brothers. Woo! Willem, Ardos, Errol, Roderick. How about that succession issue? And 2 younger sisters, Barina and Alysanne. According to a semi-canon source, Donner's father, Lord Baron, was mortally wounded by Ironborn. House Stark faced a crisis of succession as his wife and 4 other recent Stark widows made claim for their own children. In the end, Donner succeeded his father as Lord of Winterfell. Sometimes it's just a simple solution, people. We don't got to get all crazy. As Donner died without issue, heard that before, his brother Willem inherited Winterfell after Donner's death. All right, let's take a look at Willem. Willem, Lord of Winterfell and head of the Stark during the reign of King Maekar the First Targaryen. Willem became Lord of Winterfell after the death of his older brother Donner. Willem married Leanne Glover. That's also a northern family of Deepwood Mott and had 1 child with her, Brandon. But Leanne died while giving birth to the boy. Nan came to Winterfell to be Brandon's wet nurse. Those names sound familiar. But he died at the age of 3 of her summer chill. Willem then took Melantha Blackwood of the Riverlands as his second wife, and together they had 2 children, Edwyle and Jocelyn. When Raymond Redbeard, the king beyond the wall, went over the wall, Lord Willem called his banners and marched with Lord Harmon Umber, with the Northmen meeting the wildlings on the shores of Long Lake in 226 AC. Willem was killed and beheaded in a battle at Long Lake, but his younger brother, Ardos, avenged him by slaying Raymond. Willem was succeeded as Lord of Winterfell by his son, Edwyle. Let's see what we're working with. Okay, after Cregan, we've got Brandon to Baron to Willem to Edwyle. Okay, so that's what we're working with. That's the current tally right now. So that's after Cregan. We've got 1, 2, 3, and we're going on to the 4th. All right, Edwyle Stark was the Lord of Winterfell and head of House Stark during the late reign of King Maekar the First Targaryen and the reign of King Aegon V. He was the only son of Lord Willem Stark and his second wife, Lady Melantha Blackwood. Edwyle married Marna Locke, that's also another northern family, and had only 1 child with her, Rickard. Edwal was buried in the crypt of Winterfell. There is a statue of him placed with his tomb. Edwal was succeeded as Lord of Winterfell by his son, Rickard Stark. We've heard of Rickard Stark before. Are we far enough along? Is that the Rickard Stark that is Ned's dad? Are we getting somewhere here? We are getting somewhere here. That is, in fact, like Robb and Bran and Rickon and Sansa and Arya's grandfather right there, Rickard Stark. Rickard Stark was Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, and head of House Stark during the reign of King Aerys II Targaryen, the Mad King. He was the only child of Lord Edwal Stark and Lady Marna Locke. Wow. It's crazy when you look at this and it's only one child and it happens to be a son, and like a great house, which would be House Stark. They're one of the great houses of Westeros. They're like that close to like just being completely extinct, like through the male line. And then, well, Rickard was the father of the current Lord of Winterfell, Eddard Stark, in the television adaptation. Okay, we don't care about that. But if you look at his issue here, Brandon Stark, Ned, Lyanna, Benjen, right? It's just crazy how it's that close to being extinct. And then he goes on and has 3 sons and a daughter. Let's go down here. I mean, we don't really need to investigate that much further here, right? Because we know who it's going to pass down to next. I always thought Brandon Stark's image here was really badass. They really do start doing a good job here. Shout out Mike Hallstein. Awesome image. The man just looks like a typical Stark badass with ice. Yeah, he looks like a man not to be trifled with. And then I always like Brandon's image too. Damn. Looks like an absolute beast. Let's just go back here. And then we're at Ned. There you go. The Quiet Wolf, right? Isn't that what his nickname is? Where is it? Titles. Yes, the Quiet Wolf. The Ned. The Ned. Wait, what? He was known as the Ned? I don't remember the Ned, but okay. So we go Edwald to Rickard to the Ned. All right, so we're going to tally this up here. Here's how I'm going to read this. This goes from Cregan Stark, who's all the way back in the Dance of the Dragons, which is, like I said, God, I don't even know, like 129 to 131 AC. And then we have Ned, obviously, he's born in 263 AC. So the amount of time that passes from Cregan Stark being influential in the Dance of the Dragons all the way to Ned, who is the Lord of Winterfell in the first season of Game of Thrones, right? A significant amount of time passes. Okay, so what does all of this mean? Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, who is Cregan Stark to Ned Stark? Like, how far separated are they? Well, let's scroll down to the bottom here. And let's take a look, because this also shows us here, actually on the screen, where he like actually comes from, right? And there's Baron, right? Baron's at the top of the list right there. And if you hover over Baron, Baron was the Lord of Winterfell and the head of House Stark during the reign of King Aerys I Targaryen. Baron was a younger grandson of Cregan Stark. All right. Now, Baron comes from Brandon. Brandon was one of Cregan's later sons. I think it actually was his last son, if I'm remembering this correctly, from like Lenara. So it goes from Cregan to Brandon to Baron to Willem, Edwile, Rickard, and Ned. Okay. So if you follow this here, we go Baron to Willem to Edwile, Rickard, and Ned. Okay. So Cregan Stark, who's going to be the Lord of Winterfell in the second season of House of the Dragon, would be Ned Stark's, let me see here. Edwile would be his grandfather. Willem would be his great-grandfather. Baron would be his great-great-grandfather. Brandon would be his great-great-great-grandfather. And Cregan would be Ned's great-great-great-great-grandfather. 4 greats and a grandfather, basically, is what Cregan Stark is to Ned Stark. So that's how far separated they are from the second season House of the Dragon Lord of Winterfell to the first season of Game of Thrones Lord of Winterfell. That was a little confusing at times, and I think mainly just because Cregan had so many kids, and there was like a lot of like succession issues there early on. Shout out to Succession, it's on HBO. We got like literally like a fantasy medieval world version of it here with Cregan. But that is the relation, that is the tie to Ned. That's how far separated that they are, which I think it's cool to just go and take a look at that just to see like how close these family members are to the Game of Thrones that we saw from 2011 to 2019. They're not that far separated. Yeah, hey, look, I just wanted to make this little video here. This is some goofy Game of Thrones stuff that I always is like in my brain for some reason, and I always find myself here on a Wiki of Ice and Fire just trying to piece the puzzles together. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you can see the relation here between the two Stark lords from Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is coming up here in hopefully not that much time, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. But hey, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you want to see me do more of these like Game of Thrones rabbit hole searches on a Wiki of Ice and Fire, I love doing that stuff. Kind of similar to this, kind of similar to the Harry and Karstark one. Let me know if there's anything you have an interest in. Maybe it's a, you know, great house that's, I don't know, maybe you have an interest in House Martell or House Aaron, or like the rivalry between two houses in the Riverlands or something like that. Let me know. I'm always down to do these. I really enjoy these. So just drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, please like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you on the next one.